As mentioned in my previous video, once the late race begins, your Uma will not begin her last spurt unless she has enough stamina remaining to maintain her top speed for the rest of the race once she accelerates to it. Her last spurt is her final acceleration toward her top speed. If your Uma has enough stamina to do so, she will begin her last spurt as soon as the late race begins. If she doesn't, then she'll delay her last spurt until she does. There are two reasons why you do not want your Uma to delay her last spurt. The first reason is rather obvious. The sooner she begins her last spurt, the faster she reaches her top speed. The second reason is that if her last spurt is delayed, it becomes unpredictable. It's advantageous for your Uma to have enough stamina to begin her last spurt as soon as the late race begins, because then you know for certain when she will begin her last spurt. Thus, you know exactly when you want her acceleration skills to activate, as soon as the late race begins. While not everything that happens during a race is necessarily within your control, if you know definitively when your Uma will begin her last spurt on a given race course, then you can plan and prepare accordingly when buying your skills and deciding your team composition. If your Uma doesn't quite have enough stamina to consistently begin her last spurt as soon as the late race begins, then there's no way for you to know for certain when she should activate her acceleration skills, because you won't know for certain when exactly she'll begin her last spurt. You're essentially gambling at that point, hoping that whenever she happens to begin her last spurt, her acceleration skills will also happen to trigger somehow. Now you might be wondering, well, isn't that what everyone does already? Hoping their acceleration skills trigger when their Uma begins her last spurt? I mean, it's not like we have any control over that, right? Yes and no. While it's true that you aren't actively controlling your Uma as she races, skill selection and team composition play a huge role in whether or not your ace's acceleration skills trigger or not. And knowing exactly when you want your ace to trigger her acceleration skills gives you a clear goal when making those decisions. For example, my Virgo Cup results were awful. Not because I got stat checked, although I did to some degree, but because I did not make the right decisions when buying my Gold Ship skills or building her teammates. My primary ace was Gold Ship, who is an end closer, and two of her acceleration skills were Let's Pump Some Iron and Red Shift. To trigger Let's Pump Some Iron, she has to be in 6th place on the final corner and pass a wit check, and to trigger Red Shift, she has to be in 5th place on the final corner or later and pass a wit check. Because the late race begins near the end of the final corner during Virgo Cup, and my Gold Ship had more than enough stamina to reliably begin her last spurt as soon as the late race began, my goal was clear. Aim to have Gold Ship advance into 6th position during the final corner, trigger Let's Pump Some Iron, move further into 5th place, trigger Red Shift, and then trigger Straightaway Spurt, creating a chain reaction of acceleration skills that propelled her toward the finish. The reason I was able to come up with this plan is because I knew Gold Ship would always begin her last spurt as soon as the late race began, though it failed because I not only didn't give Gold Ship the proper mid-race target speed skills to help her enter 6th place by the end of the final corner, but both of her teammates were late surgers with an average power stat of 1,000, meaning I was the one who actually created Gold Ship's worst enemies. When all the stars aligned and Gold Ship managed to enter 6th position on the final corner, she competed for 1st place as expected. But often, she would have trouble overtaking her own teammates due to their high power stats, which was necessary in order for her to reach 6th position at all, and she would finish near dead last as a result. Gold Ship's performance could have been more consistent if I gave her two teammates that were debuffers with relatively low power stats. That way they could fulfill their roles, and then allow Gold Ship to easily overtake them during the mid-race or late race, thus allowing her to activate her acceleration skills. Though it ultimately failed, the reason I was able to come up with a concrete strategy on how to win is because I could rely on having enough stamina to know exactly when Gold Ship would begin her last spurt. I also thought it was important to share my Virgo Cup mistakes to demonstrate that despite the game certainly having luck play a huge factor, there are things within your control that you can bend to your will in order to maximize your chances of winning.